Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving deep, really deep, into a period of immense change. China between 1912 and 1949. Just imagine, in just a few decades, an empire collapses, and new political forces, well, they kind of explode onto the scene.
It's a period that's key to understanding modern China. I mean, how did this ancient civilization transform so dramatically in such a short time? It's really mind-boggling when you think about it.
And that's exactly why we're here. We're going to break down the key events and forces that reshape China, from the fall of the Qing dynasty to the rise of the People's Republic.
And we've gone through tons of sources, YouTube transcripts, PDF documents, you name it. We're going to synthesize it all, give you the most important insights.
So let's rewind back to 1912. The Qing dynasty, it had been around for centuries, but things were, well, let's just say a little shaky.
Oh, definitely shaky. The death of Empress Dowager Cixi in 1908, I mean, she was a powerful figure, a conservative force, but still she held things together. And then a 3-year-old Puyi takes the throne. Talk about a power vacuum.
A recipe for disaster, right?
Yeah.
And that's when the 1911 revolution erupts. Uprisings, mutinies, the whole country was in turmoil.
It was a culmination of growing unrest and nationalist sentiment. The people wanted change, modernization, and an end to the Qing dynasty. And you know what? They got it. In 1912, Puyi abdicates. The Chinese Empire was no more.
And that's when Sun Yat-sen steps in, right?
Yeah.
The first president of the Republic of China.
Yep. Sun Yat-sen. He was a revolutionary, a visionary. He envisioned a new China based on his 3 principles of the people: nationalism, democracy, and people's livelihood.
Sounds pretty straightforward. But it seems like the new republic faced an uphill battle right from the start.
It did. For one thing, it lacked a strong, centralized power base. Sun Yat-sen's support wasn't widespread enough to really control this vast, diverse country.
And that's where Yuan Shikai comes in, this powerful general who basically seized control in 1912.
Exactly. Yuan Shikai, he was ambitious, ruthless even. He dissolved the parliament, and, well, he wasn't a fan of democracy. Let's just put it that way. He was about consolidating his own power no matter the cost. He bought off, intimidated, even murdered his political rivals. This was a power grab, pure and simple.
So not exactly a smooth transition to a republic then.
Not at all. Sun Yat-sen, he tried to fight back, formed the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party, but his revolt failed, and he was forced into exile in Japan.
And what about Yuan Shikai? Did he manage to hold on to power?
He did for a while, but then he made a huge miscalculation. In 1915, he declared himself emperor. Talk about a step backward. It backfired spectacularly. He faced widespread opposition, never really gained control, and died in 1916.
So China's kind of back to square one, but now it's even more fractured. You have the warlord era, these regional military leaders basically carving up the country.
Right. It was chaos. Warlords battling each other for territory and resources. The central government had basically collapsed. And all the while, foreign powers are still lurking in the background, still trying to exert their influence. It wasn't a good time to be in China.
Definitely not. So let's fast forward to 1919. That's when we see this major turning point, the May 4th movement. Students taking to the streets, demanding change.
It was more than just students. It was a huge nationwide movement, and they had plenty of reasons to be angry.
Like what?
Well, China had joined World War I on the side of the Allies, hoping to get rid of those unfair treaties, the ones that gave foreign powers so much control.
Right. But the Treaty of Versailles didn't exactly deliver what China was hoping for.
It was a slap in the face. Instead of returning German territories to China, they gave them to Japan. Talk about adding insult to injury.
That's a pretty bitter pill to swallow.
It was, and it triggered massive outrage across China. The May 4th movement was a response to this betrayal, but also to the ongoing problems of foreign interference, internal division, and the lack of real progress towards a modern, unified China.
So what were they actually demanding? What were their goals?
Well, they wanted a complete overhaul. Modernization of the government, national unity, social reforms like women's emancipation, and a rejection of traditional Confucian values that they saw as holding China back. It was a call for a total transformation.
It sounds like they were looking beyond the West for inspiration. The Soviet Union seems to have captured their imagination. Why was that?
Well, the West, particularly after the Treaty of Versailles debacle, well, they kind of lost their appeal. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, they just had this huge communist revolution. They were talking about anti-imperialism, equality. It sounded pretty good to a lot of Chinese intellectuals.
So in a way, the May 4th movement kind of sets the stage for the rise of communism in China.
It definitely played a role. And just a couple of years later, in 1921, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is officially founded.
And what's interesting is that initially, the CCP actually cooperated with the Kuomintang, the nationalists.
Yeah.
You had this first united front.
It was a marriage of convenience, really. Both sides had the same enemy,
Hmm.
the warlords and foreign powers. But they had very different visions for China's future. And don't forget, the Soviets were actively involved, providing support to both the CCP and the Kuomintang. They were playing a long game, trying to influence events in China.
But then, everything changes in 1925. Sun Yat-sen dies, and Chiang Kai-shek takes over the Kuomintang.
Chiang Kai-shek, he was a complex figure, a strong leader, but also deeply suspicious of the communists. He was determined to unify China under his own leadership, and he saw the CCP as a threat.
But before their dramatic split, they actually worked together, right? They launched this massive campaign, the Northern Expedition, to defeat those warlords.
They did. It was a successful campaign, at least initially, but the alliance was always fragile. And in 1927, things finally fall apart. Chiang Kai-shek, he launches a brutal purge of communists in Shanghai. Thousands are killed or arrested. It was a bloodbath.
And that's when the Chinese Civil War really kicks off, right?
Exactly. The fragile alliance is shattered, and now it's a fight for control of China. The nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek versus the communists led by Mao Zedong.
So Chiang Kai-shek establishes a nationalist government.
Yeah, but it's authoritarian. He cracks down on any opposition, tries to modernize China, push for industrialization, improve infrastructure. They even had some success in renegotiating some of those unfair treaties. But there was still a lot of corruption, and the benefits of modernization weren't reaching everyone.
Meanwhile, what are the communists up to?
They're regrouping. Mao Zedong, he realizes they can't win by focusing on the cities. He shifts their strategy, focusing on winning over the peasants and the countryside. They establish rural bases, build up the Red Army. They're playing the long game.
Then, just when you think things can't get any worse, Japan invades Manchuria in 1931.
It was a brutal occupation. They set up this puppet state, Manchukuo, and put the last emperor, Kui, back on the throne, but just as a figurehead, you know. It was all about exploiting Manchuria's resources for Japan's war machine.
It was a dark time. But amazingly, it kind of forced the nationalists and communists to put their differences aside, at least temporarily.
Yep. The Second Sino-Japanese War, a truly devastating conflict, forces them into this uneasy alliance. They're both fighting for China's survival.
But the mistrust, it never really went away, did it?
No. And as soon as Japan is defeated in 1945, that civil war, it flares up again. This time, it's the final showdown.
And the communists, they have a few things going for them. Mao Zedong, he's consolidated his power, built up this cult of personality, and they've won over a lot of the peasantry with their promises of land reform and a better life.
Plus, the nationalists, they're increasingly seen as corrupt and ineffective. The economy's a mess. There's a lot of unrest.
So by 1949, the communists are on the verge of victory. And on October 1st, Mao Zedong proclaims the People's Republic of China in Tiananmen Square.
It's a seismic shift, the end of a long and tumultuous period, and the beginning of a new chapter for China.
A new chapter, but not the end of the story. Chiang Kai-shek and his followers, they flee to Taiwan. And the division of China continues right up to the present day.
It's a reminder that the events of this period, 1912 to 1949, they still cast a long shadow. They shaped modern China in profound ways, and they continue to influence China's role in the world today.
It's been a fascinating deep dive, and we hope it's given you a better understanding of this crucial period in China's history. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts and any questions you might have.